Good evening, welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. Rishi Sunak has been appointed the new Prime Minister of Britain. He becomes the first British Asian and the first Indian origin Prime Minister of Britain. While this is a moment of pride for many here in India, some others have found an opportunity in this too to try and shame the BJP's model of government, saying that India will never have a minority candidate who can aspire for the top job. Now, the fact remains that India has had minority candidates who went on to become prime ministers and who went on to become presidents. So is this political nitpicking or is it convenient cherry picking, because India has had first citizens in the past who have come from the minority communities? But first, it's the story of Rishi Sunak and how his appointment became a controversy amid a celebration.
And I have been elected as leader of my party and your Prime Minister, in part, to fix them. And that work begins immediately.
While Rishi Sunak has made history by becoming UK's first British Asian Prime Minister, his selection has triggered a political storm in India. Many opposition leaders have used Sunak's victory to target the BJP. Congress MP and former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram said there is a lesson to be learnt by India and the parties that practice majoritarianism. His fellow partyman Shashi Tharoor followed suit.
To actually create a situation where a brown man can become Prime Minister, I think that's an extraordinary achievement. I would really like to see the Hindutvavadis of the BJP being prepared to embrace somebody. Would they embrace somebody who's an overtly practicing Muslim or Christian as Prime Minister?
Former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti said that while the UK has accepted an ethnic minority member as its Prime Minister, India is still shackled by discrimination. The BJP immediately dismissed the opposition's claims.
India is rejoicing, Indians are rejoicing globally. So let us celebrate that. Today is not the occasion for political divide.
ये और एक लंबी श्रृंखला है. तमाम जो संवैधानिक पद हैं उस पर जो है वो कभी जाति, धर्म और कुनबा ये नहीं महत्व रहा, काबिलियत महत्वपूर्ण रही.
The fact of the matter is that India has had a Sikh Prime Minister, several Muslim presidents, and the current head of state is from the tribal community. So is the opposition's majoritarianism argument far-fetched, or is there a need to introspect?
All right, let me go across to our guests who are joining us this evening. Tom Vadakan, spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, will be on the broadcast. Rabinder Sachdev is a foreign affairs expert. Sarah Shah Halim will also be joining us, writer and activist, and Tausif Ahmed Khan, advocate and political analyst. Tom Vadakan, let me start with you. The Congress party senior leaders, the likes of Mr. Chidambaram, Mr. Tharoor, are all saying, I mean, look at the example of Kamala Harris, look at the example of Rishi Sunak now. This is what true democracies do. They embrace minorities and give opportunities to minority candidates, qualified minority candidates, to go and aspire for the top job and take the top job, something that can never happen in India. That's a message for majoritarian politics and majoritarian political parties like yours.
Zaka, I am surprised that these leaders can go blind to the historical background and the kind of leaders we've had, whether it was a Sikh Prime Minister or a Muslim President. We had Chief Justices, we have Army Chiefs, I'm from different minority communities. So it's not as if the whole debate, you see, this all stems out from one issue which has made them paranoid. That is, that Mrs. Gandhi was not accepted. The rules permit, but the point here is, well, all these leaders we have mentioned, whether it is Rishi Sunak or Kamala Harris or other leaders, they're all, Rishi is British born, Kamala is again British born. So, I mean, here's an Italian who spent 22 years of her life in Italy. And you see, this is a kind of issue which has been raked up. And then we have Jairam Ramesh coming in and saying,
Tom, one second. Is the issue about Sonia Gandhi her foreign origin issue and the fact that because of that, and you say that she was not accepted, therefore she could not become Prime Minister. But the facts, as you would remember in 2004, was that she chose not to take up the top job. It was hers for the taking. You remember the famous inner calling speech, as she put it, the inner conscience speech. It was not. She gave a pass on that job.
Zaka, the sanskar that we use the word in the Bharatiya Janata Party forces me to be silent on that issue. The so-called alleged sacrifice is known to all, but nobody wants to rake up those issues, and I don't want to come into public domain how Rashtrapati Bhavan was called, and then the swearing-in ceremony was to be held at the lawns, and then again a phone call went in and to a senior IAS officer saying, no, forget it. Now, everything was, the plan, project was all online. But the problem is when the legal hurdles came in and there were objections to it, from Mulayam Singh to Subramanian Swamy and others, then the issue was about sacrifice. So let me not go that way.
Okay.
Zakha, this is not the day.
So let me keep it to Sunak because
I know too much on that.
The subject of today's debate is on Sunak. So let me ask Saira Shah Halim. When opposition leaders like Mr. Chidambaram, Mr. Tharoor say that minority candidates can never aspire to the top job in this country, Dr. Manmohan Singh was a Sikh Prime Minister. Our current president, the first citizen, is a tribal woman. I mean, that's as minority as it gets. APJ Abdul Kalam was a minority president. So was Zakir Hussain, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed. We've had minority chief justices in this country. So what makes them say that a minority candidate can never aspire to the top job in this country?
Okay, so good evening, Zaka. Firstly, the people who are tom-tomming about Rishi Sunak should celebrate diversity, should celebrate non-discriminatory practices, and also shun bigotry at the same time, because we are truly happy at his candidature and we understand how and what it takes to reach the top post, where you are facing, you have kind of seen racism, you face all kinds of an apartheid system, in little ways. Like UK is not a bigoted country, but yes, anybody who comes from a colored origin knows what it takes, because we were equally happy when the mayor was elected and he has origins from Pakistan as well. So now, thirdly, I think it's not about who a Muslim is or who a Dalit is or who a Christian is or whether we had a Sikh prime minister or we had a Muslim president. The idea is that who is capable of handling the top job.
Yeah.
And I think we should believe in equity, we should believe in equal opportunities, and we should give the top job to the most deserving person, irrespective of the race or community that he or she comes from.
What is stopping, if there is a deserving candidate, what is stopping him or her from aspiring to the top job in this country? There's no institutional roadblock.
Absolutely. There's no institutional roadblock as well. And I would be happy to see the day if there is somebody from the minority community who gets elected as a prime minister. I think it will be quite a landmark step if India does elect one. And I think we have a long...
Okay.
It's, again, like I said, it's not a constitutional, there is no obstruction.
So let me ask Ambassador Sajanhar, who's joining us as well, and so is Robinder Sachdev. Ambassador Sajanhar, how much pressure is there on quote-unquote minority candidates, if you will, whether it's a Rishi Sunak or a Kamala Harris, even a Barack Obama, for that matter, to appear more majoritarian than an average politician in the US or the UK, because they are being judged for a very, very different standard. So will Rishi Sunak be judged to a very different standard from, let's say, a Liz Truss or a Boris Johnson because of his origins and because of his color?
Yes, I should think so, Zaka, because I think they are set to much higher, they are judged to much higher standards, and they are under much greater glare of, so to say, investigation or observation.
And so I think they have certain much higher standards to live up to than would be people of, who are white or not color or of the, from the majority of the community. So definitely he would be under that pressure. But that having been said, I think these people who get elected, you mentioned names of three of them, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Rishi Sunak. I think they're coming there basically because of of the merit of what they have been able to deliver, what they have been able to do. And I think if they are doing the job well, of course, if they were to make some mistakes, some faux pas, they will be judged much more harshly than otherwise, another person who does not come from such a background would be. But yes, they would have to be much more on their toes than otherwise, the normal white people would be. They would be able to
the argument of merit, and I think that's where the opposition seems to be missing a trick, because let's face it, Rishi Sunak is as meritorious a candidate for the top job in the UK. And Ravinder Sharma, please weigh in on this, because he went to the best private schools in the country, he went to the best university, he went to Oxford, he worked in the private sector with one of the top-notch banks in the world. He came back, ran first as a member of parliament, and then eventually, of course, becoming Chancellor of the Exchequer. He would not have got these positions had he not been qualified enough, had he not been capable enough and meritorious enough. So, let's not simply dismiss his achievements by simply saying, oh, minority candidate, the system allows minority candidates to aspire for the top job. It's also because he's very good at what he does.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he's the gold standard in a way, right? I mean, all the elite schools in the United Kingdom, and then Stanford in the US, then Goldman Sachs, which is the topmost investment bankers. And by the way, investment banking is a very tough area also. You got to be pretty smart to understand people and deal making, which is, I think, quite a lot helping him in the politics or in the political world, right? So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's as good it gets for the Conservative Party. He's a typical, stereotype in that sense, one. Secondly, a quick thing as to, people of Indian origin, brown on the outside, white inside. So sometimes they could be referred to as potatoes also in a lighter vein, but that aside. A quick point to what you were asking as to, being held to a higher standard within their country. Yes, sure, that could be it. But, there is another higher standard to which they will be held, people of Indian origin, when they interact with India. The problem then becomes that they have to not only come across and be seen as being tough negotiators with India. Mm-hmm. Therein, actually, it works as a slight downside also for India, because people of, anyone of Indian origin, you are once again open to politics in your own home countries, right? You have your opponents who jump on anything. And so therefore, I would say the Rishi Sunaks, the Kamala Harrises of the world, when they interact with India, they would have to be, and they are, extra cautious.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it can come back to haunt them politically that they went soft on India, etc. So that's a little downside on the higher bar or a higher bar to which they have to,
okay. Let me ask Tausif Khan again. I'm coming back to, the stats don't quite bear out, what Mr. Chidambaram is saying or what Shashi Tharoor is saying, because India has had one prime minister out of 15 who was a minority candidate. Presidents, 4 out of 15 were minorities. Vice presidents, 3 out of 14 have been from minority communities. Chief Justices of India, 5 out of 49 have been from minority communities. So it's not like deserving, capable minority candidates have not become or have not held high constitutional offices in this country.
You see, Zaka, in the right sense, the top job in the office, the top office in our country is that of Prime Minister. The President, under the schemes of the Constitution, is bound to act on the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister decision is binding on the President. There is not We have been 75 years of independence. There is not a single Muslim, also to say other, if we have to enlarge it to a minority category, there's never been a minority prime minister, with an exception being Manmohan Singh, that was brought by the Congress party. Now you see, this BJP party itself today enjoys the majority, that they have an unprecedented majority in parliament, but they don't have a single member of parliament in either house. And today they are celebrating a minority, member, a minority becoming a prime minister in UK. We all celebrate that. But this exposes the hypocrisy of BJP. BJP is not true to the politics that we should do in India. They do a politics of religion. They say Muslims should go to Pakistan. They do not give make candidates to Muslims. Rather, they say they, in fact, in a way, they challenge other parties to make Muslim a candidate, and they challenge that they will lose the election. They have created this environment. I mean, we cannot blame Britishers.
Before I ask Tom to respond to that, and it's a fair point, Tausif, can I ask you one thing? The fact that Britain, in its 200, 300-year history of parliamentary democracy, the fact that they've not had a non-white prime minister until now, until Rishi Sunak, would you call that majoritarian politics? Because for 200 years, they didn't have one.
No. In Britain, we do not see a campaign of Muslims should go back to India or Pakistan, or there's a different people living over there. There you see decisions are made on the basis of merit, not on the basis of which caste or creed they belong to. Here we see party gives ticket to people on the basis of the caste, on the basis of the religion.
Tom, respond to what Tausif is saying, that it's great. We're all celebrating Rishi Sunak's ascension to Prime Minister of Britain, being a minority candidate. But the fact is that, what do you say when people like Tausif say that you don't have a single member of parliament out of, you have what, 300 in the Lok Sabha and another almost 100 in the Rajya Sabha out of 400 plus. You don't have a single minority member of parliament.
Well, I'm not contesting that. But the reality is, if people like Tausif Khan wants to join the BJP, he's welcome. But the point is, they create their own barriers. They create this kind of a situation. Well, this is a Hindu party. We are a national party. You're welcome. You're welcome to contest. You develop your own constituency and do contest. Tickets will be given to you. But point is, winnability is a factor for the government, for the party. So wherever there is a winnable candidate, the reality is any political party will select anybody who has a clean chit. But this mental barrier, this mindset, this radicalization that is getting into the Muslim issues, I think are responsible for this. I'm a Christian and I'm today with the BJP. I belong to the minority. We had a prime minister, of course. Mr. Sanjay Baru has written about him and called him the accidental prime minister. The title is not accident, it is accidental prime minister, but the reality is also accidental. So don't think you did a great favor by asking Manmohan Singh, because Mrs. Gandhi was shown the door. It was decided that, well, there's no other option but to put Manmohan Singh. So let's get candid on the reality.
Tom, the question that's being asked by people like Tausif is there a level playing field in this country for minority candidates? Can they aspire? Let's face it, the BJP is today the ruling party at the center. It rules in, 17, 18 states across this country.
Yes.
Is there a level playing field in the ruling party of the country for minority candidates to also aspire to top jobs?
Absolutely, it's an open situation. You come and join the party, you create your own constituency, and why not? I mean, the Prime Minister himself has reiterated many a time, sabka saath, taking everybody along. And the point is, if that is not acceptable, you have blinkers. You have blinkers on this issue. You join our party and see what...
Tausif, yeah, what's the point you were making?
See, Shahnawaz Hussain, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, they are all the BJP ex-ministers. They don't give the chance to their own people. And now they are making a mockery of asking, oh, Tausif is invited to come and join BJP.
No, but Tausif, in a democracy, and to give credit to Rishi Sunak, he didn't win the first time. He lost to Liz Truss. Now he has majority amongst the Conservative members of Parliament. That's how a democracy works. If you have leadership skills and if you have the ability to convince a large number of legislators, members of Parliament, why you should lead, then that's how democracy works. Rishi Sunak was able to convince his party and therefore he is Prime Minister of that country. No
doubt he received support from his other party members. A lot of other members, including MPs from Pakistani origin, also supported him. I am saying that what stopped BJP from bringing Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and Shahnawaz Hussain, they are their own ex-ministers. Does BJP think that now they have lost the capability to fight on BJP ticket and garner vote? Then it exposes.
Very quickly, Tom, and then I want to give the final word to Saira and to Ashok Sajanhar. Very quickly.
Well, let me tell this gentleman, they were made ministers, they held high offices. There are times when reshuffles happen. Situation in Bihar was what is not our creation, as far as one minister is concerned. And as to the question of Naqvi ji, we have hold him in highest respect. He's one of the most senior leaders. You wait and watch. He will also be rewarded. But don't use that as a situation where, Naqvi ji is out. People come in politics and people move out.
Reshuffles happen and reshuffles, the fact that India today has a... One second. Saira, the fact that India today has a tribal woman as president, the fact that till 3 months ago we had a Dalit president in this country, does that not count? I mean, at the end of the day, when you're talking about minority upliftment, it's about people who are at the bottommost rung of society, socially, economically, and they aspire to the top job in this country.
So I will not lie, because definitely representation matters, and I believe it will really bring about a major social impact. When certain communities, or even if Rishi Sunak is not an Indian, his parents never held an Indian passport or whatever. However, the origins, the origins matters. But let me also iterate once again that the people who are rejoicing about Rishi Sunak's candidature will be surprised, because he will prove to be more British than the British. Because we need to understand that there's a lot of pressure on people who come from Indian origins or Asian origins, people of color primarily, because they need to prove better than their counterparts or better than their contemporaries. So those who feel that it will be a huge turnaround for India, they'll be surprised that it might not be as expected, because he will be loyal to the British, and in time he will prove to be more British than the British. That is
Ashok
what
Sajanhar,
I
I'll
think
give the
and
final
believe.
word again. Rubinder Sachdev also made this point, and so is Saira Shah Halim. For example, on the FTA talks, and we know that they are in the final stages, how much more pressure is there going to be on a Rishi Sunak to appear and come across as being tough as nails when it comes to negotiating with India, because of his background, because of his family's origins, etc., in a way that it would not have applied to a Liz Truss or to a Boris Johnson?
Is that to me,
that's to you.
Zaka?
That's to you, Mr. Sajanhar, yeah.
Yes. No, I think the pressure will definitely be on him, but I think what he could really do is he could, not be negotiating for it himself, but, delegate this responsibility to the Secretary of Trade, Secretary of State, Foreign Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and they'll be able to do it. So I think they will be able to do all the nitty-gritty, and the final, once it is done, the paper will land on his table. But yes, he will be required to show that there has been, as far as the negotiations are concerned, he has been strong and he has been very tough. But, coming back on some of the other issues that you were discussing, Zaka, if I may just add for, two sentences.
Quickly, sir,
One is, why are we hankering only after the ministerial positions? Because positions in the party are also very, very important. And I think if a person has been, there are so many other people who've been made ministers, they have acquitted themselves very creditably. You look at Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, you look at Mahesh Sharma, they are in position, then they are moved from there and used for party responsibilities. And so I think also Mr. Shahnawaz Hussain, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi Sahab, they're all excellent in whatever they have done, and they continue to contribute to the party.
I'm going to leave it at that. I want to thank all our guests. We'll see how this plays out for Rishi Sunak, because remember, his biggest challenge and his most immediate, most pressing challenge is to fix the British economy. Addressing the country in his first ever brief comments that he made right outside 10 Downing as the 57th Prime Minister of Britain, Rishi Sunak said that his job, according to him, was to fix mistakes of the past, and particularly on the economic front.
Mistakes were made. Not born of ill will or bad intentions. Quite the opposite, in fact. But mistakes nonetheless. And I have been elected as leader of my party and your Prime Minister, in part, to fix them. And that work begins immediately. This will mean difficult decisions to come. Trust is earned, and I will earn yours.
Let me go across to Sanjay Suri, my colleague, who's standing by for us from right outside Westminster. So when Rishi Sunak says mistakes were made, even though he was very effusive in his praise for Liz Truss both yesterday and today, what is he referring to specifically as to these mistakes? And more importantly, how does he plan to fix them?
Well, the mistakes clearly were the mini budget where Liz Truss came up with these tax cuts that were unfunded without any indication how this borrowed money would be repaid, when and on what terms. So this was an undeliverable budget. The mini budget is being much discredited, and that clearly is what he was referring to. But when he does say that mistakes were made, he follows that up with saying that they were not from any ill will. That's a rather odd defense for Liz Truss. Certainly, she would not need the defense that she acted out of ill will. There has been no suggestion that ill will could have been an issue here. This was a mistake she made without doubt. It was a misjudgment about the economy, again, absolutely without doubt. But really, the question now that Rishi Sunak is addressing for the future is that he will fix it. Now, I personally feel a bit uneasy about that phrase. He seems a bit fixated on that phrase, fix it. He said it in Northern Ireland about the Northern Ireland Protocol, I'll fix it. About the National Health Service, I'll fix it. About the economy, he says, I'll fix it. His expression, there's been no indication so far what he will do to fix it. We are not expecting the nitty-gritty at a statement outside 10 Downing Street, but certainly a little more than what he has said before, and we didn't quite get that today.
Well, I tell you what, that is going to be his biggest job, his biggest challenge between now and the next general election. Can he improve the British economy? Can he improve the lives of ordinary British citizens who are reeling under this massive cost of living crisis? We'll leave it at that, Sanjay Suri, for the moment. Thanks very much. That's a wrap. In a moment, the biggest exclusive tonight with Akanksha.